In this video, I want to have a look at transformations of graphs. So we're going to go through a couple of different ones and see how they move around the number plane. So first off, we're going to start with parabolas. So the most basic parabola looks like y equals x squared. And if we've got our axes, it looks like this. So it's got its vertex right on the origin there and it's concave up. Right, if we had the equation something like y equals x squared plus 5, that plus 5 is going to shift our parabola up 5 units. So now instead of having its vertex at 0 down here, it's going to have its vertex here at 5. If we did it the other way, so if we had y equals x squared minus 5, I'm sure you can imagine that what happens is it's going to shift down that axis instead. So it's going to come down here and have its vertex down here at minus 5. Right, the other ways that they can shift though is if we have another term in with that x before we square it. So if we had, say, x plus 5 and then all squared, this is where it gets a little bit tricky because it sort of does the opposite to what you expect it to do. Most people see that plus 5 and think it's going to move this way, but it's actually going to move the other direction. So our parabola would shift over to the left 5 units. So rather than crossing here at 5, it's going to cross here at minus 5. And the last one we want to have a look at is y equals, if we had x minus 5 squared, it would shift it 5 units to the right. So then our parabola is going to look like this, where that point there is at 5. Alright, so that's parabolas. Let's have a look at hyperbolas. So the most basic hyperbola has an equation of y equals 1 over x, and it looks like this here. If we had, say, y equals 1 over x plus 2, that's going to shift the whole thing up 2 units. So instead of having that asymptote along here, along that x-axis, our asymptote now is going to be up here at y equals 2. And then our hyperbola is going to be here and here. So the vertical asymptote, this one going down here, that hasn't moved because we've just shifted our graph up. Alright, if we had, say, y equals 1 over x minus 2, that's going to do the opposite. So that's going to shift our whole graph down. So our horizontal asymptote would now be at y equals minus 2. And again, our vertical asymptote has stayed in the same spot. And now our graph is going to be here and over here. All right, but what if we change what's in the denominator? If we had, say, y equals 1 over x plus 2 in the denominator instead. So that plus 2 there is going to shift our graph 2 places to the left. So instead of having the vertical asymptote at x equals 0, it's now going to be at x equals minus 2. And our hyperbola would go here and here. So in this case, our horizontal asymptote has stayed the same. It's just shifted everything to the left. And the last one is if we had y equals 1 over x minus 2, that's going to shift the whole thing over to the right. So we're going to have our vertical asymptote now at x equals 2 and our hyperbola in here. And again, that horizontal asymptote has stayed in the same place. If we have a look at circles now, if we've got the equation x squared plus y squared equals 9, that would give us a circle that's centered at the origin. So its center's just here. And the square root of 9 is 3, so that means our circle has a radius of 3. So it's going to pass 3, 3, minus 3, and minus 3. But let's have a look at how we can shift that around. So if we had, for example, x plus 1 squared plus y squared is equal to 9, that's going to shift our whole graph 1 place to the left. So instead of the center being right in the middle at the origin, our center now is going to be at minus 1. Because that 9 hasn't changed though, it would still have the same radius. So that means when we draw our circle, it's going to go through 2 and minus 4. And up here it would still cross at 3, and the bottom there would be at -3. So sorry, it's not crossing, that's where it peaks at 3 and -3. Right, our next one, if we had, sorry, not y, if we had x minus 1 squared plus y squared is equal to 9, that's going to shift it to the right instead. So our centre now of our circle is going to be up here at 1, and it's still going to have a radius of 3. So that would be -2, 4, and it's still going to come down to -3, and it's still going to be up at 3 as well, because we haven't shifted the circle up or down at all. So let's have a look at how we can shift it up and down. So if we had the equation x squared plus y plus 1 squared is equal to 9, then that's going to shift our whole circle down 1 unit. So our centre of our circle is now going to be here at -1. So a circle will look something like this. So it'll come down here to -4, and it'll cross up here at 2, and it'll still come out as wide as 3 and -3. Right, now last one is x squared plus, if we had y minus 1 squared is equal to 9, then that's going to shift our whole circle up 1 unit. So our centre of our circle would be here at 1. Got our circle, it goes up to 4, down to -2, and it comes out as wide as 3 and -3. Alright, so those are a few examples of how we can transform graphs.